товарищ, this is the car of the perestroika, the GAZ-24-10 Volga, right here, right now. Greetings petrolheads and welcome to romrom.net, the channel sharing the joy of sim racing and to a new chapter of It's a Mod world. The car which mod I'm testing today is called the car of the perestroika because its introduction into the Soviet market took place during the first time of Mikhail Gorbachev, and that was the time when the Soviet Union was entering perestroika. While designs for this car were already finished in the 1970s, it was only around 1984 that this car was available for public consumption. We have videos and mods for everyone, so if you want to know more about what mods are out there for your enjoyment and become part of the RomRom family, subscribe right now and click on the bell, you won't regret it. This mod is for a racing car based on the Volga GAZ-24-10. Let's see how it looks, let's see how it drives. Funnily enough, even if this car is quite Spartan, it still has the air duct standard in street cars. The graphics of the mod look kinda plasticky, and see, the safety cage does not reach the bottom of the car. I'm pretty sure this was never the case in these cars. The design of this car is quite blocky, but it was to be expected from a design from the 1970s. And another strange thing of the design, you are never quite sure if there is glass or not, because depending on how you look at it, it's transparent, like completely transparent, like there is no glass, or you see some glass reflections. I'm pretty sure this is an error in the mod. And while the left rear view mirror is minimal, you won't be able to use the right rear view mirror because the safety cage is in the way. While in general I like the sound of this car, it has a very strange behavior. When I downshift, it stops for a fraction of a second, and when I stop the car, you don't hear the motor running, it just stops completely. This is clearly an error in the mod. The only way I have to describe the driving feeling of this car is gooey. The brakes are gooey, but they were drum brakes, so it was to be expected. The suspension is very soft, so the car moves to one side and the other, and turning the car around is kinda sluggish. It's not easy to get this car to do what you want. I get the impression that the mod makers tried to simulate an old car, and old in design, but also a car that has had already a lot of miles under the wheels. And I also get the impression that the backstory of this car is it was a street car that with minimal changes was made into a racing car, but as I said, minimal changes. The behavior is very much like a street car. The drum brakes of this car are very well simulated. I had a car that did brake like this and I didn't like it one bit, because with this kind of brakes you have to plan with enough time to brake, and God forbid that you get some surprise. Be very careful using the brakes with this car. Also, the car in this mod tends to the right when you use the brakes. I suppose that this is also a simulation of an old car, because I don't think that I can change the right-left balance of the brakes. I suppose there is a trick for getting this car up to speed in less time that I needed, but every time that I press the throttle, the car went very slowly into movement. Was this really the behavior of this car? Are there any Russians checking this channel that can tell me if this car behaves this way, or if it's something within the mod, or maybe within my system? Thank you, leave me a comment. And when I go into 5th gear, and I'm quite sure this car did not have a 5th gear. Anyway, when I go into 5th gear, this car behaves as if I would have set up the 1st gear. It's very strange. You'll also encounter downshift oversteer, but if you use it wisely, if you use it a little bit, you can use it for driving into the curves. A little bit of oversteer going into the corner helps you, especially with a car like this that doesn't rotate very well, but as I said, don't overdo it, as it's very difficult, I would say even impossible, to save the car when you lose control in an oversteer. That said, it drives very much like a car of the 70s, Soviet or non-Soviet. So there's a light down there. That tells me when I should be changing gears and upshifting. I should rather go by that light than by the app. Whoppa! Soviet Dorifto! This car will keep you on your toes. You have to drive it carefully, you have to drive it thinking seconds forward, you have to be very aware when to start braking, when to downshift. It will keep you thinking all the time. I get the feeling that the backstory of this car is that this is an old, battered and worn down gas Volga 24 that is being used for racing because the brakes are sluggish, the steering is sluggish, and when you brake it has a clear tendency to go to the right, which is a behavior that I know very well from old cars. Never having driven a gas Volga in real life, I cannot tell you if this is not a standard behavior from the car, but I would not expect it to be so. While the car looks okay enough, especially from the outside, there are errors like the glass being completely transparent or not there when you look it from one direction and being there when you look it from another, or that the safety cage doesn't reach completely down. It's not been perfected, therefore for the look I give it 3 eyes out of 5. I like the sound of this car, I like this roaring that it has, this guttural sound. In the sound design there are glaring errors, so I cannot give it a good note. I can give it at most 4 ears out of 5. The driving feeling, as I said, it feels very much like this was a street car, then got some extras to put it for racing, and that was all that was done to this car. That per se is a good idea, it's a fun idea, it's a car with a difficult or at least not standard driving behavior. There are a couple of things where I think these are errors in the mod. Please, anybody from Russia who has driven this car, correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, but something like the way that you get it into first gear and it takes a long time to move. I don't think this is standard behavior with this car, so for the driving feeling I give it 4 wheels out of 5. This is not a car, a mod for beginners. Absolutely, definitely not. You have to know how to deal with a difficult car. You have to know how to think a while up front before doing anything with this car, steering, braking, downshifting. So if you're a beginner, stay away from this car. If you are middle to experienced, you may have fun trying to squeeze the last milliseconds out of this car and its behavior. I don't think I'm gonna be using this mod often. On the other hand, if I want a challenge or I want to sit down with friends and challenge them. I may fire up the mod, get maybe a circuit that is a little bit more difficult, more curvy, and see to it how we deal with the circuit and with the car, and have fun seeing how we don't deal with the circuit and the car. Anyway, you find the mod. We have tons of videos sharing the joy of sim racing. Check them out. Thank you very much for watching this video, and thanks for all the comments and subscriptions. We love to know about you. If you like this video, applaud by giving it a thumbs up and share it around. Don't forget to subscribe and click on the bell to be informed about new videos and to become part of the ever-growing RomRom family. And if you already did, thank you very much for that. Until next time, save fuel, collect pickup, and we'll see each other on the podium.
Visit romrom.net to connect to fellow sim racers and sim racing fans.